I'm gonna have to change the name from What Did I Make Wednesday to What Am I Working on Wednesday, because I did not finish much of anything this week. I do have some granny squares to show you, so I have been somewhat busy. I've got a new work in progress that I started, and you'll see some of that. And I did a little sewing with my daughter. So let's check that out first, because that is the majority of what I was working on the last week and a half. So my daughter decided to take one of her favorite band t-shirts and cut it up and create a new fashion fit for herself, which turned out really cool. This is actually the second one we did. We did another one with another t-shirt that she didn't like quite as much, just to kind of practice, and that turned out pretty good too. I'm really glad that we did a trial run first, because we could see what worked, what didn't, maybe where we needed to fix some of our sewing and all that fun stuff. So typically when the first time you make something, you're going to find ways to do it better. And that's exactly what happened to us. So here's the second attempt at what we were doing. What she did was she took the band shirt and she cut the front and the back, separated them, took off the sleeves, took off the neckline. So she basically just had the front panel and the back panel. So she was almost like deconstructing a shirt. And you can't see it on the bottom, but she did sew some different fabric across the bottom, on the front and the back, added some lace so you can't really see the seam as well. And then same thing at the top, except just with the lace. And then this was the complicated part, at least for us. In order to get these nice edges, you have to add additional fabric to each side, so the front panel and the back panel, and then you add these little, I don't even know what they're called. They remind me of like Rosie the Riveter, because you have this tool and you're creating these holes with the little metal rings, and then you can lace them up the sides. So we did that. There's the other side. We had to go and buy some string at Michael's, so that was a fun Michael's trip. Although I don't think I bought any yarn. No, I didn't buy any yarn, unless you consider this string kind of stuff. It's like elasticy. It was in the yarn section, but it's not really yarn, although I suppose you could use it as yarn. So we made two shirts like this. They're super cute. They fit really well, and you can kind of adjust them on the sides, because you tie those strings as tight or as loose as you need. Now my daughter's into sewing, so we've been kind of busy in that aspect of things. But that's one thing that I was working on this week. Let's go back a bit to last week, and you can kind of see the projects that I've started on. It's early Thursday morning, April 9th. I thought I'd jump on here really quick and show you what I'm working on, and then next week when I'm on here for What Did I Make, we can see exactly the progress that I made throughout the week. Project 1, I just started yesterday. A granny hexie cardigan. I know, it's springtime. Nobody needs this, but the yarn was calling to me. And I know the lighting is bad in here. It's early, and I didn't get all set up. I just wanted to jump on and show you. The yarn that I'm using is the Karen Big Cakes. It's a really nice pink purple kind of hue, and you'll get to see it a little better next week when I'm in better lighting. This colorway is called Peach Party, and it is a 4-weight cake. Very soft, very nice. I love using this yarn, and it's working up really nice. I did have to frog it because I started it and was only working 5 sides. I don't know. So I realized it wasn't shaping up correctly, because when you fold it down, you're supposed to get that like L shape like that. Only having 5 sides, I wasn't getting the right L shape. I am now. So I haven't made too much progress with that, but that is just something that I can mindlessly work on throughout the week. I am also working up some more flowers for some flower garlands. So I've got this one, I've got to weave in the ends of this one. I'm hoping I can finish that up today. And then I've got my Year of Granny Squares, which I haven't done for 2 weeks. I really need to get on that because the book is due. The book is overdue at the library, and I really need to get those done and return the book so somebody else can enjoy it. So that's what I'm working on today, and I will follow up with you tomorrow and see how much progress I made, or maybe I started some new things. We'll find out. Welcome to Friday the 10th. What did I get done yesterday? Not a whole lot. I did manage 2 squares in this book. Did that after work. Took 2 hours. Each of these squares I'm finding is taking at least an hour to do. I was hoping that the ones that I was working on yesterday, because they seemed to be fairly straightforward, would take me less time, and it was still an hour. So that was 2 hours last night. And on the granny cardigan, making good progress. I think I was maybe like here somewhere. So I worked a number of rows last night, and I love these colors. This is what I've got left. So still a ton of yarn in this cake. These cakes seem to go so far. The Karen Big Cake. This cake just seems to go on and on forever. So I'm loving that, and that's all that I got done yesterday. I'm going to continue working on this cardigan. I'm going to hopefully do another square or 2 because I really got to start getting through that book. And that's pretty much it. I've got a couple other things that I'm working on the side. I've got a blanket, which I'm loving, but I just don't have enough time to work on it when I'm doing other things, and just some small projects here and there. So we'll see how it goes, and I'll see you this weekend. We can see if I made any progress. Hi guys. It is Tuesday, the 14th of April. I managed to do a little bit work on my Hexie cardigan, which I will show you tomorrow for me, but in just a few minutes for you. You'll see that. I'm actually waiting for the internet tech to get here. We have been out of broadband, internet, all that technical stuff that I don't understand for almost 2 weeks now. We had a huge rainstorm about a week and a half ago. The entire front yard flooded, the entire backyard flooded, and the backyard has the cable box kind of stuff. So I have a feeling that when we had that flood, all of that water kind of seeped into that box and maybe shorted something out. I don't know. So I'm hoping that they can fix that so we'll have some internet so we can post some videos and get some things done around here. So that's just what I'm doing today, and I'll be back in just a minute with future me and a roundup of all of the things that I managed to get done during this really crazy week. So I'm going to start with the Hexie cardigan that I am currently working on, as you saw. Here is the progress. So I've got quite a decent sleeve size on this one. Here it is all opened up. So I worked quite a bit on this. The more you work it, the longer and longer and longer each round takes. I still have quite a bit of yarn in this one cake. It's the same yarn that I used to start it. I'm not even through a full cake of yarn, and I just love the colors on this one. It's turning out so nice. I am using a smaller hook, and I probably should have sized up a bit more. I'm using a 5mm for this because I kind of wanted the stitches to be a little bit tighter. I didn't want it to be so bulky, but it's just taking a while. I'm not going to tear it out and change my hook or any of that. I'm just going to keep working it. I'm almost done with the first sleeve. So I'm getting there. So hopefully next week I'll have another sleeve done, and then the week after that it'll be done because I'll have joined it and put some length on, I think. And these wearables usually take me quite a few weeks because I have so little time to work on them. And if you've been watching this series, a year of granny squares is what we are working on. I've done most of the spring squares. So this book is separated into spring, summer, fall, winter. I'm starting with all of the spring squares. I've got almost all of them done. I need to do one more, but I really need to return this book. So I'm going to try to do that last square tonight, and then I can return this. I'll recheck it out when we get closer to summer, work all the summer squares, check it out again in the fall, do those fall squares, and then again in the winter I'll do the same thing. That way, if somebody else is looking forward to this book, they have a chance to kind of get their hands on it. Let's take a look at the squares in this book. I'll show you the one that I have not done yet first, since I don't have a physical version of it, called the Golden Halo. Super pretty. I don't think it's going to take me very long, but I've said that for each and every square, even the ones that I thought were going to be easier, and they've all taken, if not an hour, just under an hour or way over an hour. So there are some very complicated, intricate kind of squares in this book, but they're all so different, and yet you can probably put most of them together in projects and they would look fine. So this week, the first one I did, and I don't think I did this the week before, but this is the filigree lace. And my version, if I can find it in this stack, is this. So I went with all blue for the center, and then I put a kind of a dark pink frame on it, and this one was pretty easy actually. It just took way longer than I expected, as usual. So that was the filigree lace, first one that I did this week. If we hold them up together, that is their version, and there is mine. Next one is the Sweet Violet. Here is my version. I have not blocked any of these squares, so they're kind of wonky, some of them. Really pretty. I did the nice yellow in the center, and I'm using a 6mm crochet hook because the first few squares that I did, I misread the pattern. It was supposed to be like a 4.5 or a 4mm, and for some reason I saw a 6. 6 was in there somewhere, and now I'm stuck using a big hook, but it's fine because they all kind of come out the same, just on a much larger scale. So I'll have really big squares. Their version and my version. Next up, tulip bowl. This one, you have to create those 4 individual squares and then join them together and put the border on. Let me tell you, this one had so many ends. It came out really pretty, and I really like it, but it was a lot of work. So there's my version. So I did the yellow, pink, green, and purple for those center squares, and then I bordered it with a nice blue. And this is all just the 4-weight acrylic yarn I'm using. I've got some red heart, some loops and threads. So there's their version, and there is my version. Next up, Flower Field. As you can see, I was busy working squares this week. And let's see if I can get it right side. I can't remember which is the top and which is the bottom now. But there is mine. This again was one with a lot of ends, and you can see some of my, I guess I would call them mistakes. You have to work one row doing sort of the bottom part of that sunburst kind of thing, and then the next row you're working the top of it, and I just must have not put a stitch to join those two together in the correct spot. I got the hang of it the more I worked, so you can see up at the top it's a little bit better. There's not those holes down there. I do like this one too. It came out really pretty. It was just a lot of work. So there's their version, and there is my version. Polanthus. Number 9. This one was pretty fun. It was kind of unique, just kind of your standard granny square, but you work those center rounds doing front post double crochets, and you get a nice textured feel. It's kind of stands out. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but you kind of get that little raised ridge from working in the front post. So those stitches really make this square. And I like this one because it's not quite as puffy as some of the other ones that I did early on, like this, which I still haven't blocked. So I really like this one. Again, it was a lot of work though. So there's their version and there is mine. And yeah, blocking, I have not done any of that. All right, number 10, Yantra. I think that's how you say it. There's my version. We've got just purple and I bordered it in some pink. I'm trying to stick with similar colors. So then if I do want to put these together in a blanket, I can. So their version and there's my version. This one was fairly easy. It's just a lot of counting. You have to get those spaces correct, and then you're working single crochets, and so you really have to get your counting and your stitches correct. Otherwise those chain spaces won't end up going out towards the corners. You'll be a little bit off. In fact, I think I was off one stitch, so I just kind of created a stitch. I made it work. Anyway, you can't notice it, but it's not perfect. Next, Blossoming Fields. I definitely put a lot of time into these squares this week. Here's my version. It's hard to see those stitches in a solid color, but you work puff stitches to create those puffs. And this one, it's a pattern repeat, so you work that pattern repeat. This would be really nice for like a blanket or something, which I might do. So it worked out fairly quick. You just had to remember which row you were on so you got the correct repeat, I guess. And then we've got the nice green border. So that is that one. Here is their version of Blossoming Fields and there is mine. And you can see that I didn't go just with the solid color. I added a nice border to just frame that square. And finally, French Garden. I worked on this one last night. Here is my version. And on the back you can see I started to try to carry the yarn and I couldn't. So this one also had a lot of ends, but it was fun to make. You do some cross over stitches, which was really kind of fun once you got the hang of it. Some of these squares, it's taken me a few times to like really get it. And then once you get it, it seems to go much faster. I find myself looking at the written version, and if I can't quite make it out, I'll go and I'll look at the chart, because this book does give you both the written and the chart. So there's their version and there's mine. So this is the stack that I did just this week, and this is the few that I did in weeks before. I've had this book for many, many weeks, which is why it's now overdue. But we can look at the ones really quickly that I worked on previous to this week. And this is that puffy 3D flower. Now it's really pretty. It needs to be blocked, but it is really pretty. I'm just not sure what I'm going to use the puffy squares for. I'll probably stick it in the blanket, put all of these together. I just think that it's almost a little bit too 3D puffy. This one is a little bit more manageable. Same kind of idea. Smaller petals. This one is probably one of my favorites so far. Just a pretty easy, straightforward granny square, flat petals. And this was the very first one, which is also one of my favorites. It kind of got me into the mood of making these intricate and fancy squares. So we've got a ton of granny squares made. I'm going to go ahead and make that last one, and I'll put that in next week's video. But I am going to return this book. So if anybody is interested in working up these A Year of Granny Squares, I will link the book somewhere in this video. I don't know if it's going to show up in one of these corners or down below in the description box, but there is the author, Kylie Maleta. You can probably find it at your local library and just check it out and kind of do what I'm doing. So we've got granny squares, the start of a granny hexagon cardigan, and some sewing. So all in all, for a busy week, I was pretty productive. I hope everyone is having a wonderful week. Happy Wednesday. Happy crocheting, happy knitting, happy sewing, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.